Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Representation and pride go well beyond waving a rainbow flag and Indigenous, Two-Spirit, and LGBTQ+ artwork. A wide-ranging exhibition in Minnesota aims to support Indigenous artists whose Two-Spirit identities shine in tandem with traditional art forms. It's one of a handful of artistic projects built around LGBTQ+ talent. We'll take you on a tour with featured artists and curators after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. The case had the potential to overturn decades of hard-fought legal battles to protect traditional fishing rights in rural Alaska. But in the end, the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals sided with the federal government in its lawsuit against the state to protect those rights. As KMBA's Rhonda McBride tells us, the win is a major victory for tribes.
This summer, for the first time in a long time, smokehouses along the Kuskokwim River were filled with bright red salmon.
We have no other choice but to prepare for hard winters, and it has been very difficult for us to meet our annual subsistence needs for the last 10 years.
Mike Williams serves on the Kuskokwim River Intertribal Fish Commission, which joined the federal lawsuit against the state.
As a fisherman, in these hard times, I was very pleased on the Ninth Circuit decision.
The Federal Appeals Court affirmed ANILCA, the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, a law Congress passed in 1980 that gives rural residents who are mostly Alaska Native top priority to harvest the salmon. The court says the state broke that law in 2021 when it ignored restrictions that federal managers imposed to save a struggling salmon run, as well as subsistence protections an Athabascan elder named Katie John had won in numerous court battles. The crux of the problem remains the state's constitution, which doesn't allow for a rural priority. Alaska's Attorney General Treg Taylor says he's disappointed in the decision, but not surprised. In a statement, he said the case would need to be decided at the highest level, yet stopped short of saying whether the state plans to appeal this case to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that has Joe Nelson, co-chair of the Alaska Federation of Natives, worried there could be more litigation ahead.
This is going to be just another chapter in the story that's going to continue.
Although this case involved one river, Nelson says there is so much at stake for all Alaska Natives. In Anchorage, I'm Rhonda McBride.
A youth curfew aimed at reducing violent crime in the Gila River Indian community in Arizona has been in place since late February. As KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrorazio reports, the curfew will now be in effect through the end of the year.
It marks the fourth time the curfew has been extended. In this latest executive order, Governor Stephen Roe Lewis wrote that the tribe south of Phoenix saw a decline in crime between June and August, but concerns over threats to public safety still remain, with Lewis adding that emergency action gives us stronger, more flexible tools to prevent violence and disorder before it starts. Leaders are even considering banishment as a solution. The tribe is surveying its membership about a draft ordinance to banish its own members who are convicted of committing violent crimes on the nearly 600 square mile reservation. For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrorazio.
The Spirit Lake Nation, the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians, and Native voters are formally asking the U.S. Supreme Court to review their case involving Native voting rights in North Dakota in the court's upcoming term. They filed a petition Tuesday. According to attorneys, the plaintiffs have been fighting for fair representation for Native voters since 2022. Public statements and expert testimony in the Line 5 reroute begin Wednesday in Madison, Wisconsin, and Bridge Energy plans to build a new 41-mile segment of its pipeline. Tribal and environmental groups are among those in opposition, raising environmental concerns, while supporters are pointing to jobs and an economic boost. I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support by the Colorado Plateau Foundation, supporting Native-led initiatives protecting plateau lands, waters, and cultures by building networks, community, and organizational capacity. Grant proposals accepted through September 5th at coloradoplateaufoundation.org.
Support by Sonosky Chambers Law, championing tribal sovereignty and Native American rights since 1976. From opioids litigation to treaty rights to tribal self-governance. With offices in Washington, D.C., New Mexico, California, and Alaska. Sonosky Chambers Law.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Traditional indigenous arts meet two-spirit expression in an upcoming exhibition at the Minnesota Museum of Art in St. Paul. Organizers of the Queer Indigeneity exhibit say they want to show viewers a more comprehensive and complex story of this region's art and artists. We'll hear from the curator of that show. Another traveling exhibit of photographs in Minnesota raises awareness and healing for Native LGBTQ+ issues and missing and murdered Indigenous people. And a city in Canada is showing works by Indigenous artists in their region. Each of these projects, artists are expanding the public narrative they would like to see in their own communities. They can also provide recognition and support for other LGBTQ2+ searching for connection and inspiration. We'll get a preview of these Indigenous LGBTQ2+ arts exhibits and the conversations around them. As always, you can join us with comments and questions by calling 1-800-996-2848. That number again is 1-800-996-2848. We have the phone lines open now and we're waiting for your call. Let's now meet today's guests. Joining us from Minneapolis is Dr. Kate Bean. She is the executive director of the Minnesota Museum of American Art. She is Flandreau, Santee, Dakota, and Muskogee. Dr. Bean, hello, and welcome back to Native America Calling.
Hi, Mitakepi. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. Joining us from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota is Penny Kagegebe. She is an artist and the curator of the Queer Indigeneity exhibition opening September 18th at the Minnesota Museum of American Art. She is from the White Earth Band of Ojibwe. Penny, hello and welcome to the show as well.
Oh, bonjour. Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Bean, I want to begin with you. We've talked before about bringing Indigenous voices into conversations about Minnesota history. How does queer indigeneity align with that goal?
Well, because we're Minnesotans, and as an institution, the Minnesota Museum of American Art seeks to be truly reflective of who we are as community. You know, historically, I've worked in public history, and now I work in the art world, and it's all about storytelling, and it's all about inclusion and making sure that we are adequately and representing the people within our communities. Our two-spirit relatives, you know, have been historically and marginally excluded from this Western society for far too long. Our existence as Native people is political, and it's incredibly important that we center and advocate for our relatives because their contributions and who they are is very much needed right now.
Well, tell us more about what it took to get this exhibition going. What were some of the initial conversations, and who was the team you put together?
Yeah, so we had a former curator and director of exhibitions here by the name of Laura Joseph, who was recruited to New Mexico, and then our good friend Ben Gessner, who was a former Native art curator from the Historical Society, stepped in and supported this partnership. And so all of our projects are partnership projects. We're all co-curated partnership models of working with and in community. And so essentially artists and community members come to us with ideas and we bring those ideas into fruition. And I think the conversation kind of started between Laura and Penny a few years ago when they met as part of a rural connection opportunity. And I was introduced to Penny and just absolutely knew the first time we had a conversation that this was somebody that we needed to work with.
Well, Penny, sounds like you are just an indispensable member of this team. Let's hear from you now. What do you want this collection of works in queering indigeneity to accomplish?
Well, at first I want to say is that, this initially started out just as a small community collaboration here at White Earth to uplift and reclaim what is Two-Spirit cultural knowledge and how do we, living our lives in that way. And we've been so blessed and lucky to have this connection with the M, and we've been brought in by Laura Joseph and Kate Bean and Ben Gessner. And truly, this is my first exhibit that I'm curating. So they've mentored me and really shown me a lot of things that I needed to know about, what it is to put together an exhibition. But I'd say at our core, um, this moves us from in a lot of spaces today, in tribal communities, there's conversation about Two-Spirit and Native queer people, that we should be welcomed and we should be accepted and that we should be tolerated. And really queering indigeneity and where it goes from here is all about celebrating and affirming and empowering.
Mm-hmm. Penny, in addition to being the curator, you're also one of the artists that is featured in the collection. Tell us more about some of the works that really exemplify the spirit of this show.
There's, I would say that we have 16 artists, including myself, exhibiting. I just checked the other day, and it looks like we're at around 60 pieces of artwork total. Most of it was created for this exhibit. We've been in conversation about doing something like this since almost 3 years ago. And then the one that really stands out for me, in particular, or I know it was hard to choose one to talk about, but there's one wall. It includes a poem and 35 photos of Two-Spirit and Native queer relatives, and that really has this energy and community spirit that just comes through. And the backstory for that was the artist and community advocate, poet Nick Metcalf. Many people in this region know Nick. I invited Nick to participate. And their first question to me was like, they're a poet, what would they have to contribute? So I asked them to submit a poem, but then I'd also seen them in a TED Talk 10 years ago where they talked about why we need gender fluidity. And that had already always stuck with me. And as part of that presentation was a photo collage. And I asked them if that could possibly be some aspect of their presentation with the poem. And this real beautiful collaborative aspect came through. Nick invited me to help collect photos, and between the two of us, we had 35 relatives who offered personal photos. So they're all from the upper Midwest in Canada. And then, but additionally, our project manager, Ben Gessner, and the designer, Curtis Bjerke, both from the M, they contributed so much to the final look and the idea and how it all came forward that Nick asked to include them in the collaboration attribution in the M in the exhibit itself.
Thanks, Penny. I'm looking at the M's website right now and some of the pieces that are photographed. And I encourage listeners, check out the website mmaa.org for some of the images from the Queering Indigeneity exhibition that is going to open here on September 18th. And Dr. Bean, I want to go back to you because this is such a powerful exhibition, and there's just so much going on right now with regard to the LGBTQ plus community. Do you think this would happen? Do you think an exhibition like this would occur there at the M without having a Dakota Museum director like yourself?
Well, I would certainly hope so. I think that it's absolutely essential that shows like this keep being centered within institutions. And I think it's incredibly important, as Penny mentioned, that these aren't exhibitions that are just sort of put up in order to check a demographic box. These are really opportunities to to celebrate our relatives who are deeply, centralized within our communities, and to uplift and connect our communities. Art institutions historically have and American art institutions historically have been awkward and uncomfortable spaces for Indigenous people and artists and communities. And we've been working far too long to be not only included within exhibitions, but also to be included within as staff and as administrators within these institutions. I think that, it's hard as an Indigenous person leading an institution that is representing a diverse group of people. We do Native-centered exhibitions. We do exhibitions that are focused on a lot of different communities. And as an Indigenous leader, sometimes we get tokenized, whether we focus on a Native exhibition or a non-Native exhibition. And I think it's incredibly important that we remember that Indigenous people were here first. This is Dakota and Ojibwe land, and our Ho-Chunk relatives and our other relatives that have lived within these areas are incredibly important to be celebrated here.
Mm-hmm. Penny, how about you? What type of broader public discussions do you hope are happening now or will be raised as a result of the Queering Indigeneity exhibition?
Well, what I'm hearing from nearly everyone that I've worked with as part of this exhibition, or I'm also a teaching artist, and those classes are an opportunity for me to talk about what it is to be Two-Spirit and a Native queer person historically and currently, as a contemporary people. And I'm getting a lot of feedback from my Native queer relatives that they feel seen and that they're walking out into their lives and understanding what are the gifts that they carry, what is the medicine that they bring to their communities. And I'm just hoping this is a catalyst. I have one of the values that came through as we worked together as a group of artists was that we're not a monolith. We are also very, very different. And that what it means to be, what is queering indigeneity, that really is an individual representation to each of us. And it's also an opportunity for our communities to heal because certainly, it's like there's a lot of colonization and Catholic boarding school influence still on reservations. And, people need to heal from the homophobia and the transphobia that they carry.
We're going to take a short break and we will be right back. Scientists and environmental advocates are working to find out more information about why salmon are disappearing from the Yukon River in Alaska. After the 6th consecutive year of fishing season closures, experts are recommending an overhaul of fishing management practices. We'll hear more on the next Native America Calling.
Program support by the Colorado Plateau Foundation, a Native-led foundation supporting Native-led initiatives protecting lands, waters, and cultures of the Plateau for generations to come. The Colorado Plateau Foundation helps to build networks, community, and organizational capacity. The Colorado Plateau Foundation is accepting grant proposals through September 5th. Eligibility information is available at coloradoplateaufoundation.org.
You are listening to Native America Calling. We're talking with Indigenous, Two-Spirit, and LGBTQ plus artists today about the messages that accompany their work. How does gender identity in artwork reveal itself in the community where you live? Let us know. Give us a call, 1-800-996-2848. Our first two guests, Dr. Kate Bean and Penny Kagegebe, are bringing us up to speed on an upcoming exhibition, Queering Indigeneity, that will be at the Minnesota Museum of American Art. And Dr. Bean, I wanted also to ask you about something very exciting. I know the M has a new wing that is still in its first year, and you feature a work by architect Cass Gilbert, who actually designed the Minnesota State Capitol, but you also feature an Ojibwe artist named George Morrison. Tell us more about that mix you're going for.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we just finished a $14.5 million capital campaign and tripled our gallery space. And so we have 6,000 square feet of gallery space. We have the largest George Morrison collection of anywhere in the world due to our close relationship with George and his family. We're really excited. We're actually partnering with the Met in New York right now on an exhibition, which is the first retrospective of George's work while he was in New York, the Magical City. That will be in. Actually, it's going on right now at the Met, which is really exciting. Cass Gilbert was the architect of the state capitol, as you mentioned, and as what we're seeing here in Minnesota is we have people like Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and these awesome representatives in our communities who are really highlighting our representation within our state capitol. Just actually on Friday, we're going to be putting up 11 tribal flags on the state capitol plaza. And I think it's really important that we make sure that we include that representation of who we are as Indigenous people within these spaces. The state capitol, historically, Cass Gilbert actually handpicked the artwork in the capitol, and a lot of that artwork is deeply problematic. And so within our museum, we can showcase the fact that we have this architect that created this beautiful historic space, but it's filled with artwork that's truly representative of who we are as Minnesotans and the diversity of what that means.
All right, thank you, Dr. Bean. And Penny, I'm going to ask you one more question before we bring in our next guest. And it's a little bit of a spoiler alert here because the piece that you provide for the exhibition, it's a quill basket. And that's something that you do, and you've talked about the art form before. Tell us how you meld that tradition with your own Two-Spirit story.
So, quill work, porcupine quills off the bodies of porcupines are embedded into the birch bark. It's a woodland quill work practice. It's ancient and on Turtle Island, but it's not very well known. So it's rare and endangered. And I see kind of a parallel to like how Two-Spirit and Native queer people have been pushed out of our communities. So that's one aspect of it, but also. There's one basket that has a lot of red ribbon on it and blue ribbon on it, and just right down through the middle, the silver and gold light, and that's done with rickrack and quills and seed beads. And that is representing the story that came to me as part of this community collaboration for Two-Spirit Cultural Reclamation about an Anishinaabe origin story that I had never heard before, where our Two-Spirit ancestors provided balance as they descended from the stars in a space between men and women. And I imagine that center space as the starlight, or the creator's love is often represented as gold and white light, and that Two-Spirit path coming through the center. And it's the first time it shows that we have a purpose, we have work to do, we have a job here, and we need to pick up our gifts and our medicine and get to work.
All right. Well, Penny and Dr. Bean, thank you so much for joining the show today, and best of luck with this exhibition that's going to open here in just a couple of weeks.
Miigwech.
Let's now talk with our next guest. We're just going to head a little bit north of the Twin Cities now to Bemidji, Minnesota, where we have Arnold Dahl Woolley. He is a Two-Spirit LGBTQ plus advocate and is the 2025 Twin Cities Pride BIPOC Leader of the Year. He's also a citizen of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. Arnold, hello, and welcome to NAC. It's great to have you.
Bonjour, I'm really happy to be here.
Bonjour to you as well. Now, you helped curate an exhibit that's going to be in Bemidji. It's titled Two-Spirit and MMIWR Voices. It's a collection of photographs by Nedadines Rose Green. Can you tell us more?
Yes, and it's honoring Two-Spirit and MMIW Voices. And the gallery showing was to bring light and bring photos over to talk about MMIW and Two-Spirit, because sometimes people are like, well, what is the connection? It's like, well, usually the connection between MMIW and Two-Spirit, well, those are two entities that are usually silenced through violence. And so it's to bring awareness. And we had the wonderful talents of Nedadines Rose Green from Green Photography, and she's an Indigenous photographer as well, and very well known. And she does a beautiful job of highlighting these photos for people to understand that these are powerful voices coming through to bring awareness of the disparities that may be happening to our communities of people as an Indigenous person.
Now, we were chatting a little bit before the show with the other guests about Bemidji and how it's really, there's a lot of Native influence there in the city.
Yeah.
And sometimes people think of their first thought of Minnesota as the Twin Cities, of course, but yet Bemidji here is just a really, really powerful area with regard to Native representation and community.
Mm-hmm.
What's the significance of having this exhibit there in Bemidji as opposed to in the Twin Cities?
I think it's a great starting point because Bemidji is surrounded by 3 tribal nations like White Earth, Red Lake, Leech Lake. And so Bemidji does have a large Native and Indigenous population here. And so for us to have that, it's like, well, let's talk about certain disparities that may be happening because, when we talk about Two-Spirit and MMIW persons, there's billboards showing people that are missing. And then when I give presentations within an area such as Bemidji or outside, if there's billboards out in those areas, I'll ask people, I go, well, did you drive by the billboards to get here? And people are like, what are you talking about? I go, the billboards of the missing persons. It's kind of strange what we've become accustomed to. We're becoming accustomed to billboards within our own communities of people that may be missing. And so it's a nice place to start out with Bemidji when we talk about Native American populations. And then, because there's a large population here, but we are everywhere. We talk about going to the metro areas. That's why some of our gallery showings are going to the metro areas, such as Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and beyond.
Well, Arnold, tell us more about these photos. And I was looking online. It looks like you're in several of them.
I'm in several of them. And then there was a photo shoot that was done years ago by Adonis Rose Green, which was to represent Two-Spirit and MMIW because there weren't any of them together. And so this was one of the things I was very honored to be a part of. And I did create this traveling show gallery, me and my husband, Matthew. So we talked about this, and then we reached out to Adonis Rose Green from Game Photography, and then also Dwa Brown. She's in a lot of the photos as well. And so it's like, well, let's talk about this because we need to bring more awareness to what is happening and to make sure that we do honor our Two-Spirit and our MMIW and relatives. It's like let's bring these voices forward because this is something that is an ongoing issue to make sure that we need to make awareness to the outside community as well. That there's some disparities that are happening, and what better to do it? Let's do another gallery show, and that's how it was created. And there's 24 powerful, amazing photos, and under each photo too, there's a little placard that talks about who this person is and also who this person is representing. And then halfway through the gallery, there's a meditation spot for you to sit there and for you to come up with your own decisions of what does this mean to you? What is this gallery show meaning to you as you're going through? And what are these photos telling you? Us as a community, us as Indigenous persons. And so what can we do to help the situations, or what can we do to further our communities to work with one another and to understand the disparities that we may be having, and to also understand too that cultural awareness is something that's very important. And so as a Two-Spirit person, let's bring awareness to, and let's talk about it too, because we do have our own words in Ojibwe when we talk about Two-Spirit. And so let's have the discussion, because sometimes people don't want to have the discussion of Two-Spirit or MMIW because it may make them uncomfortable. It's like it shouldn't. So let's open up a conversation, and the gallery showing is doing a beautiful job of it.
Well, let's talk about that more, about the conversation and how sometimes it gets pushback, right? And I think what's also interesting about your career, Arnold, is you put on advocacy presentations. And have you noticed a shift in public reaction where you are, or even just the reception with the show there in Bemidji and other places where the work's been shown?
Yes. What I'm super honored is that people will come up to me and they will have a discussion, whether it be after a presentation or after a gallery showing. And they'll come over and they'll say, you know what, I really had a lot of questions. I was a little concerned about certain aspects. And so after hearing me, they go, it makes a lot more sense. And this puts a lot more comforted me because usually if it's something cultural, if it's somebody that's non-native, they're like, I'm not sure if I'm offending anybody. And to open up that dialogue really reassures them. It's like, okay, I understand you as a person now, and I understand what this means culturally now too. And so, like, and with MMIW in the gallery showings, like this really brings forth that dialogue of persons to, it's like, okay, I really understand. And it's very encouraging, I guess would be the word for it, is when somebody comes up and they said, I really learned a lot. Because during like my presentations, I'll share personal stories on when there may have been bigotry towards me or even racism. I'll share a personal story of like what it was like going to school and things that I'd heard and things that I've learned through colonization or what they've learned through colonization. And after a discussion, it's like, you know what, that really put things in a framework for me to understand. And hoping, you know, that we're going to be doing better for the future. So it is doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's bringing that conversation forward, whether it be a presentation, whether it be a discussion or a gallery showing. It's bringing that conversation forward, which really humanizes us. Because sometimes people will see us as, you know, not equal, or that we deserve it, or we're bringing this on ourselves, or something like that. It's like, well, no, let's open up a discussion to really humanize us, to let them know. It's like, yeah, we're people too.
Arnold, you briefly reflected on your past, and I know that you've been a recognized national public speaker for over 20 years. And if you go back to when you first started the work that you do, did you imagine that we would be here in the place we are right now with regard to exhibitions like this, to discussions like this, to art like this? Or did you anticipate, was this always part of the plan? And did you have optimism that the world would look like this?
That's a good question. I was always optimistic. I'll be honest. I was always optimistic. It's like, you know what? We can make a difference. Every person can make a difference. And I did not, honestly, I didn't know that it was going to be this vast, this large, and this welcomed. When I first started speaking, it was small groups of persons there, and I thought, well, let's start, because my phone was going off a lot. And people had questions, and so it's like, well, they go, can you hold like a small gathering? I'm like, sure, I'll do a little presentation. You know, I bought some cookies, and this facility let me use a free coffee pot, and I thought I'm probably going to get like 5, maybe 10 people, and there was over 30. And then that was a big thing. Back then, over 30, that was a big thing. And so I said, can you do this again? I'm like, yeah, I can do this again. And then there was more people, and then there was more. And then the Two-Spirit population are showing up. They go, that's right. I forgot about this. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And the advocacy, which is Two-Spirit advocacy now here in Bemidji, Minnesota, it's really become a recognized entity within the area. And then I didn't realize it was going to get this big. And I'm very honored that it's here, because this is, when we talk about advocacy and outreach and awareness, you know, this didn't exist when I was a kid. You know, it didn't exist at all. When I would read American history books, they would list us as savages, and we were the bad guys. And so, you know, and to come this far now, so it's like, oh, okay, this is something that's very interesting, because we talk about the Two-Spirit population. Who are they? They're the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning population, Native American culture. And who are they? It's like, oh, these are the honored, respected, and highly spiritual persons. It's like, oh, this is beautiful, because over colonization, what did we learn? We're the abomination. And so I'd rather choose, you know, highly spiritual and sacred over abomination any day. You know, so this is one of those things to where the Two-Spirit population is like, yes, this is something I need to hear, because over that colonization, it was very damaging to us. So we want to make sure we're reclaiming the pre-colonial traditions. And then our MMIW, you know, our missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives, you know, it's like, well, let's pay attention to what is happening, because a lot of people have turned a blind eye for forever. And for this to finally start to be discussed, it's like, yes, what does this mean? It's talking about saving lives. It's talking about becoming aware. And it's what you had mentioned earlier, too. It's talking about that connection that connection within our communities, and also that inspiration for people to keep moving forward. Because that's why I think it's growing, is people are becoming more inspired. It's like, I want to make sure I can help our people too. And how can we do this? Well, we can heal people through art. Art is a very powerful expression, you know. And I when meeting, Penny Kakagebe, it was that birch bark basket represented so many different things. It was the connection to our past, and it was also bringing you to the present. It's like, why is this so important? And so when we think about like our future, because sometimes people think, is this like something that's created or something that we're on a new plan, or we're making a new footprint through time? It's like, no, we're reaching back to our early traditions. That's where we were very inclusive. This is something that was very safe, protected, and we talked about community. And so that was something that was powerful. So our footprint for the future is reaching back into the past and finding out, oh, we had a beautiful floor plan for what community meant, and how important our Native women and our relatives are, and also our Two-Spirit population. So bringing that forward, and the community is responding, I think it's something beautiful.
Arnold, I could listen to you talk all day. I want to check out one of your workshops now. You're awesome.
Oh, please do.
Really. Really. I am just learning so much just listening to you. We're going to have to take another break here in just about 30 seconds. But Arnold, for listeners who would like to learn more about the exhibit Two-Spirit and MMIWR Voices, how can they do that?
Oh, please go to like our Two-Spirit Advocacy website, and it's just twosspiritadvocacy.com. But also, if you want to get some more information about our latest events and gatherings, you can go to our Two-Spirit Celebration on Facebook. We put a lot of fun different events that are happening on there, and also our art classes that are coming up in the future.
All right. Arnold, take care of yourself. We're going to take a short break. We will be right back. And we've got the phone lines open for listeners who would like to join this conversation today. Just pick up your phone call, 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE.
Support for journalism that raises the awareness of child well-being to citizens and to policymakers provided by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, building a brighter future for children, families, and communities. Information at aecf.org. Support by Drummond Woodsum, a full-service law firm whose nationally recognized tribal nations practice provides services to tribal nations and their enterprises, and to companies that do business with tribes across the country. More at dwmlaw.com.
This is Native America Calling, and there is still time to join today's conversation about Indigenous LGBTQ2 plus art. How does art from this community fit into galleries and exhibits in your area? Give us a call at 1-800-996-2848. That's also 1-800-99-NATIVE. And let's head east now to Canada, where we have two more guests on the line. Joining us from Orillia, Ontario, is Jessica Martin. She is a goldsmith, a fiddle player, and a yoga instructor, and she is Métis. Jessica, hello, and welcome to our show today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. And joining us from Barrie, Ontario, we have Monica Loney. She is a Métis visual artist. Monica, hello to you as well.
Hello, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Jessica, I want to begin with you, and let's talk about this new exhibit. Now, you are primarily a goldsmith, but you also do ink on paper drawings, and they're featured in this new exhibit at the Orillia Recreation Center. Let's start with your piece. It's titled, "What If All Costs Are Even?"
Yes. So I'm a bit of a multidisciplinary artist, and this was like a really deeply sort of personal experience that I sort of put on paper, inspired by National Indigenous Month and a Gay Pride Month. And it's depicting an anatomical heart held together by tape. You know, it's a kind of under the concept of like, once you make an impact into the world, it's kind of, you can't really take those things back, and asking the question of like, what if all the costs are even, and all my spiritual practices, and even just coming into some of the spiritual practices of my heritage has taught me a about unity, right? And of integrity and of being conscious of the footprints that we're leaving in the world as they ricochet and echo into our futures, right? Into the future population. So it's a really deep thing for me to just kind of brace into that, into maybe some of the erasure that's happened and maybe some of the things I've even experienced personally in my community and in the world of, people looking at me with either stigma or things of ideas and concepts that, who knows how they got there, but, the way that people go and treat you based on something, some idea or some assumption that they have. So this art piece was very much of bringing people back to center, bringing back to ground and seeing eye to eye and heart to people, like in terms of the two spirit, we all have a heart, if we can look beyond some of the ideas and concepts that we've, adopted in our lives, maybe we can see more connection, the disconnection, and maybe there is a place of healing in that for everybody.
Sure. I'm looking at a photograph of what if all the costs are even online. So it's about 11.5 by 9.5 inches, ink on pen. Yeah. And it's a very accurate rendering in terms of the anatomical correctness, I think. But then, of course, the bandages really bring it home.
Yeah.
Beautiful piece. Beautiful piece, Jessica.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk more about the whole exhibit. Now, this collection, it's in our city rec center, as I understand. So tell us more about how it all came about.
It feels like a new thing for Aurelia. The rec center is fairly new, and our culture director has put this show together and brought us all together, which I think is really beautiful. The rec center is very family oriented, obviously. Lots of community coming in and out of this space all the time. So it's really lovely to see that opportunity for people to interface with Indigenous and Two-Spirit art, right? So I'm very, very happy to see these things happening in our city where I haven't seen them before, right? So it's been very exciting to see that.
And for all of our listeners down in the States, tell us a little bit more about Aurelia. How big is it? What's the population breakdown? What are people like up there?
We're amazing. I mean, I'm a bit biased, but we're roughly between 30, let's say roughly 40,000 people. We're about an hour or so north of Toronto, right on Lake Couchiching, Lake Simcoe. It's a really beautiful, beautiful area. Lots of water, lots of trees. It's the people up here are amazing. A very musical town. It's very art centered, and that's where I find I draw a lot of my inspiration. Right? It's the nature. It's the way people go about life here. It's the connection to all of that. So, yeah, it's a beautiful area if you ever get a chance to come up.
Yeah, I need to head up there for sure. I get to Toronto every now and then. Monica, I want to bring you into the conversation as well. Your art is also very fascinating. It features a continuous line. What's that message in this exhibit?
Oh, absolutely. So the majority of my work focuses on the use of the human body and nature. And I use the continuous line to kind of represent this universal connection that we all share. And I hope that my art kind of can help underrepresented communities express themselves. And it kind of really relates to myself being Métis and aspects of my heritage that were kind of denied from me as a child. And generations before me growing up, we were kind of, the story goes, forced to hide our identities. And then generations didn't educate their children. And it was due to kind of shame, guilt, and fear. And I definitely see great parallels that within the LGBTQ2 plus communities. And the whole purpose of my art is to kind of show with this one line that we are all universally connected. And it's kind of like to empower everyone to see that. And so with this piece, it's there's two pieces. They're called Bountiful Bodies. And it kind of displays like these two traditional spirit bodies together, kind of mixing with some floral arrangements and nature, and kind of encouraging everyone to take up space, empower yourself, have a voice. Yeah.
Okay, Monica, I want to ask you more about your pieces, but we've got a caller on the line, so I definitely want to take this person. This is Alana, who is in Idaho Falls, in Idaho, listening on station KISU. Hello, Alana. How are you doing?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm doing wonderfully well, especially listening to your program this morning. I am a non-Indigenous person, though I am friends with and have many who I consider family who are Indigenous and First Nations peoples, from Canada to here in the area with Eastern Shoshone and Shoshone-Bannock peoples, as well as Dene and others, Pueblo friends down in New Mexico. And I just wanted to express gratitude for your guests today in spreading awareness about the MMIW folks as well as Two Spirits. You know, living in a state where things are becoming, it seems, more and more about intolerance and division, I really want to express gratitude that this is coming forward. I have a lot of friends who have told me about Two Spirits folks and how in their cultures these were people who were revered for many, many generations. And so having it coming out now in a modern context and in a way that spreads more awareness, I just wanted to speak to the gratitude I'm feeling listening to this on my radio today here in Eastern Idaho. So thank you all very much for bringing out the awarenesses, because these are important awarenesses to have. And I agree that it's time for folks to come together more in what I would call unity consciousness. So thank you to your guests for bringing this out, and thank you to the show for having a forum for them.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling in. Really appreciate that phone call. And Monica, I'd like you to respond, because listening to the caller, mention the fact that here in the States right now, it's a tough time for many people, including LGBTQ plus individuals and communities. And I just want to ask you, because they're in Ontario, Canada, where you folks are you feeling some of those same dynamics? And if so, is it reflected in some of the artwork that we're talking about today, or is it different in Canada?
I feel like in Canada it may not appear to be as extreme, but behind closed doors you just don't know. I feel like with the States, from our perspective up here, it seems to be everywhere. It seems to be more vocalized in the news, whereas I guess Canada, we have this stereotype of being these polite and quiet individuals when it comes to stuff like that. But it's definitely affected us up here as well. And I think it definitely is reflected in the artwork. So if you just, with Jessica as well, when she just described her piece and like the heart and the bandages, as well as through my work, I like to really focus on empowerment and kind of doing my advocacy in the way of encouraging people to be their authentic self and express themselves. And kind of like with nature, you bloom unapologetically. It doesn't matter what chaos is going around you, what's happening. If you look to nature, it knows how to thrive and survive. So it's definitely reflected in a lot of the artwork, especially in this exhibit in Aurelia here that I've noticed. And yeah, it is, the world is changing. There are some things that are rising, but we have a great community. And if we all just band together and kind of continue speaking up and continue speaking for ourselves, then we can definitely continue to make a shift and help correct things.
All right. Monica, back to the two pictures that you have in the exhibit, Bountiful Bodies. Now, do you just start with your writing instrument on one part of the page and then you just start going and you just keep going in that one continuous stroke? Or, it's really beautiful.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I've definitely been doing it for about over 5 years. So I would say that my skill has quite advanced. It's taken practice and time. But what I love about, so I usually start, and then once the pen's on the page, I don't take it off. So one of the main reasons why I love focusing on human body and nature is that it's very forgiving. A flower doesn't necessarily have to look like a specific flower. You can let the curves and lines flow and you still know it's a piece of nature, as well as the same thing for the human body. Like we all have curves and different angles and everyone looks different. So it's the imperfections that are beautiful. So yeah.
All right. And Jessica, I'd like you to chime in as well. What are some other pieces in the exhibit that really stand out to you and you'd like to talk about with our listeners today?
I feel like they all had the same sort of tone, right? They were all sort of acknowledging the history, acknowledging, the pain, and also acknowledging this space of like new, of going into the future and, standing tall and blooming, like Monica's saying. So everything sort of had that tone to it, which really, again, showed me that, like, we're all sort of in the same place, experiencing the same things in our own different ways. But in that, there is this complete unity of, like, we're all experiencing the same thing, and we all really deep down want the same things, right? We all just want this peace. We want this happiness. We want to be able to be and exist and create and explore. So it's just, that's sort of what I saw, was just like a unifying force of, like, this is where we've been, but here's where we're going, right? Into this beautiful future. Yeah.
Well, where can our listeners go to learn more or see some of these images, perhaps online? And also, what kind of feedback are you folks getting so far for the exhibit?
I feel like I've been getting fantastic feedback. I've had some really lovely responses from even just the CBC and just local people in general as well. And it's been really, really lovely to connect with people and just have these conversations. I've always felt that there's more healing in coming together in circle and talking and just having those experiences with people. So it's been nice to have that opportunity. I always feel that these things come up so they can be released, right? So to have a space to talk about it has been really, really lovely. I have all my things online on my Instagram, Facebook, anything like on my website. So people can always go to totally.shop or from Inside the Toad's Belly online and check things out. And I'm always posting new things and new adventures as well. So people can always check that out. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And Monica, what's the best way for listeners to learn more about your work?
I'm definitely mainly focused on Instagram at the moment. So they can check me out. It's at Beautifully Monica, and beautifully.monica. So yeah.
Okay. Now, Monica, what's interesting is you're also just an overall advocate for public art. Tell us more about what created that passion for you.
Oh, it actually started a couple of years ago when I had completed my first indoor mural, and I realized I just loved creating in a public space. And then, so I just kind of was shopping around the idea of this is what I want to do. And I got approached to do a outdoor mural in downtown Barrie. It's titled Little by Little, A Little Becomes a Lot. If you look it up, it's on Maple Avenue. And I worked in an area that was heavily populated with like sex workers in the sex trade. And when we were creating this piece of art, I couldn't believe the amount of happiness that we just had brought them by taking some care in their space. We got to know their stories, myself and the main muralist on that piece. We got to know their stories, what had brought them to that kind of decision of life, and we just developed this really tight bond. And it kind of broke down some stereotypes, and it busted out some barriers. And I think public art can do that. It can unite people. It can help break down stereotypes. You can learn about your neighbor. It can bring you closer. And I think I'm just such a big advocate of, placemaking and, creating and beautifying spaces. And I think it's just a great way to build community.
And that really resonates also with what we heard earlier from Arnold and Penny with regard to art is healing.
Exactly. Public art and art in general is such a powerful tool, not only for the individual to release and express yourself, but also to bring people together and share in experiences that maybe I don't have a lived experience but with something, but an artist does. And they can kind of pull me in and teach me a little bit about it through their art, through the visual or music or writing.
All right. Well, unfortunately we're out of time, but Monica and Jessica, thank you again for joining the show, and just best of luck to you both going forward. Okay.
Thank you.
I want to wrap up the show now. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but listeners, please engage with us on social media. Go to our Facebook page, go to our Instagram, go to our website, or check out the NV1 app. You can listen to a rebroadcast of this show or other shows, or just post, comment on the content today. We'd love to hear from you. And also, big thanks to the guests who joined the conversation today, Dr. Kate Bean, Penny Kagegeba, Arnold Dahl Woolley, Jessica Martin, and Monica Lonely. And please, tomorrow, We'll be back with an update on efforts to find out why salmon are struggling to survive in Alaska's Yukon River. Please join us. Until then, I'm your host, Sean Spruce. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Skugtash. For more than 40 years, Ramona Farms has revived ancient traditional foods, tepary beans, pinoli, polentas, and more, all from store.ramonafarms.com. Ramona Farms supports this show. Omye. Support for law and justice-related programming provided by Hobbs, Strauss, Dean & Walker, LLP, a national law firm dedicated to promoting and defending tribal rights for over 40 years. More information available at hobbsstrauss.com. More than a museum, the Alaska Native Heritage Center represents all Alaska Native peoples in a living cultural center where the traditions, languages, and arts of Alaska Native peoples come to life through cultural programming and exhibitions. Life-size village sites, live performances, demonstrations, and dynamic exhibits are all just minutes from downtown Anchorage. Open 7 days a week, there is always something new to discover at the Alaska Native Heritage Center who support this show. More at alaskanative.net.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.